On 5 News, clearing the jungle migrant camp in Calais. Thousands queue up to be moved out before the bulldozers move in.
They're queuing for coaches that will take them to reception centres. No one knows exactly where they'll end up.
Also on the programme, talking Brexit. The Prime Minister tries to reassure the leaders of Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. But not everyone is convinced. A blood test for the menopause or an X-ray for back pain. Those hospital treatments that experts say we don't really need. And the little girl they're calling a miracle after she was born twice. Hello, welcome to 5 News. I'm Matt Barbet. Thousands of people have left the vast migrant camp in Calais as officials prepare to demolish it. 2,500 are expected to leave the jungle on buses by the end of today and be taken to reception centres across France, from where they can then apply for asylum. Those who refuse to leave the camp face being arrested or deported. Well, so far the mood has remained calm, but there are fears that clashes like those that were seen at the weekend could end up being repeated. Dominic Reynolds reports now from Calais.
Moving before dawn, carrying all they own. For the thousands of people here, stuck in a place they thought was a stepping stone to Britain, this may be the last jungle sunrise. The French authorities have decided this camp must close. As I walked with 25-year-old Bilal, he told me he's wanted to leave here for weeks.
But I don't know, in the north, east, west, I don't know.
Do you mind? Do you care?
Pardon?
Do you care where you go?
No.
You'll go anywhere?
Yes, anyway. Because I will stay here a long time. The weather is very bad for me because I come from Sudan.
Bilal joined a vast queue to book a spot on one of 60 coaches. For adults, this is the only official way out of here.
Most of the people in the Calais jungle have been on journeys thousands of miles long. The people in this queue are those that have agreed that their journey will finish in France. They're queuing for coaches that will take them to reception centres. No one knows exactly where they'll end up.
The pockets of trouble didn't last long. There are 1,200 riot police here, ensuring scenes being watched around the world don't look ugly. But after dark, it was different. Last night, police charged and fired tear gas, tools they've used many times to contain the edge of this camp. Abdul's lived with that violence for 9 months. He says going back to Afghanistan now isn't an option.
I'm like a 50-50. If I find a chance, okay, go UK. If not, I'm staying in France, claim asylum in the France.
Tomorrow you need to make a decision, no?
Yes, tonight. Tonight we make a decision with our all friends.
What will you decide?
Right now at this thing, so I think so like a 60% decided to stay.
60% stay somewhere in France.
France, yeah.
40% leave the camp.
Leave the camp to going to England.
And try getting on a lorry.
Yes.
But what about the hundreds of children here? Authorities say they're making special arrangements, but charities are worried some could just disappear. And exactly who Britain will help is a mystery to them.
Child will come to us and say, I've been offered a place on a bus to the UK. That's normally when we hear about it.
Do you understand the logic behind who's offered and who isn't?
Definitely not. There's definitely some very young children that I know, sort of 12 to 15 years of age, who have been here and still here, for sure. And talking to them, they have family in the UK.
They've closed camps here before, of course, but the people always kept coming. Governments on both sides of the channel now want these to be the last to make Calais their temporary home.
Dom, this has been a long time coming, but how long is it now expected to take?
Well, Matt, the plan was always that the people come out today, the bulldozers go in tomorrow, and perhaps it's all done in a third day. But some figures for you first. As of 4 p.m, 39 buses had taken 1,631 migrants away from here to other parts of France. Now, that's been relatively trouble-free, but remember, All of the people that left today are people that packed their bags this morning and went into those queues. They're people that wanted to leave. Still in that camp, there are many more people. There's still music being played tonight. And the question will be, what exactly happens with those people when the bulldozers go in? Authorities have said they want this to be a peaceful process, but they've also said they will use force if they have to.
Dom, thanks very much indeed. Theresa May has offered to involve Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland in regular formal talks on Brexit. The Prime Minister's met the leaders of the devolved nations at Downing Street, but Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon described the talks as deeply frustrating. The leaders are concerned about the impact of a so-called hard Brexit, which will see the United Kingdom leave the single market. Our political editor Andy Bell has more.
The UK has voted to leave the EU, but of course it's not that simple. The devolved governments in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland all have their own demands and want their say in just how we leave. So today, for the first time since the referendum, all those leaders from the different parts of the UK headed into Downing Street to see what Theresa May had to say to them. This single photograph is all we have of what at times was a tense meeting. The Scottish First Minister wants a direct role in the talks with the EU and the right for Scotland to stay part of the European single market after Brexit. The Welsh Government wants much the same, even though Wales, unlike Scotland, voted to leave the EU. The government in Northern Ireland is split, with the Unionist First Minister backing Brexit and the Republican Deputy First Minister wanting a special status for Northern Ireland, allowing it to remain in the single market. They were offered a new forum to take their concerns directly to the Minister in charge of Brexit, David Davis. But for the most part, they were not impressed, especially Scotland's First Minister, who's talking again about an independence referendum.
If we end up having a UK government slamming the door in our face, failing to recognise Scotland as part of an equal partnership, which we were always told we were, then I'm not prepared to see Scotland driven off a Brexit cliff edge with all the implications for our economy without at least giving Scotland the option to choose something different.
Theresa May was later in Parliament insisting she would listen to the devolved governments, but warning of the dangers of another independence vote.
Scotland has more imports and trade arrangements with the rest of the United Kingdom than it does with the European Union. Its first and foremost desire should be to remain part of the United Kingdom.
Not much life in the union flag today. In number 10, they must be careful that in leaving one union, they don't close the door on another.
So, Andy, has the Prime Minister managed to ease any of those concerns of the leaders that she met today?
Not much, I think, is the answer to that, Matt. Apart from Arlene Foster, the First Minister of Northern Ireland, who's basically on the same wavelength as Theresa May on leaving the European Union. I think for all the other leaders who went in there today, Nicola Sturgeon, Carwyn Jones, the First Minister of Wales, and Martin McGuinness, the Deputy First Minister of Northern Ireland, all those people who went in already with their doubts didn't come out with those doubts allayed, I don't think. The phrase that was being used was the jury is out. In other words, it's all very well Theresa May saying that, of course, we will listen to the concerns of the devolved governments. Are they really going to act on it? That is the concern of those people who went into that meeting in number 10 today. How is number 10 going to try and square the circle of the demands being made by those governments? I should just say there's a bit of a pushback also from number 10, though. The official spokesman for the Prime Minister said they didn't want to see the UK's negotiating position undermined by anything coming out from the regions and governments there. So a little bit of a pushback.
On the UK's position, and people in the wider country, including England this time, will wonder if we've got any more of an idea of the Prime Minister's negotiating position on leaving the EU.
I think we have still very little idea. Nicola Sturgeon said to me and to many others after she came out from that meeting today, she said she had no more idea of what Theresa May's negotiating position is going into talks with the EU than she had before that meeting. And that's very much the message we were getting back from Brussels at the summit where Theresa May was at the end of last week. That could be that the government is playing a very canny game by not revealing anything about their negotiating position. It could be that they're still trying to work it out.
Andy, thanks very much indeed. 2 police officers are in a serious condition after being deliberately hit by a car. The attack is being treated as attempted murder after they were hit responding to a call in Glasgow. The car was reversed into the male and female officers after they stopped it to talk to the occupants. A 25-year-old man has been arrested over a chemical incident that led to the evacuation of London's City Airport. Dozens of passengers suffered breathing difficulties at the airport on Friday. The suspect has been released on bail until next month. And a British man has pleaded not guilty to the murders of 2 women in Hong Kong on the grounds of diminished responsibility. Rurik Jutting pleading guilty to manslaughter, but that was rejected. Police found the bodies of 2 Indonesian women in his apartment in 2014. Dozens of common medical treatments are of little or no use to patients, according to a group of senior doctors. The Academy of Medical Royal Colleges has made a list of 40 treatments as part of a campaign to reduce the number of unnecessary procedures. Our health correspondent Catherine Jones is with me now. What kind of things are we talking about?
Well, I've pulled out a few examples of these tests and treatments that are potentially pointless and been put on this list. First of all, don't be surprised if you haven't got a plaster cast on your child when they come back from A&E with a broken wrist. Apparently, a splint is just as good for healing. Secondly, little point pestering your GP for an X-ray for lower back pain, if that's the only symptom you have. Another one, blood tests to confirm a woman is undergoing the menopause are also apparently unnecessary. And finally, chemotherapy, once cancer is terminal, that's the point at which the doctor and the patient need to start having a conversation about coming off the chemo to have a pleasanter end-of-life experience. And that is the real point of this initiative. That is to start those conversations between doctors and patients about whether things really worthwhile, what are the risks, what are the benefits.
What we're really aiming for is a change in culture where patients and doctors really talk about the risks and benefits of each of their treatment, and that patients take a more active role in decisions about their care, and that they really feel that they've been involved and they've been at the centre of all decisions about their care and treatment.
Certainly important considerations, but surely cost is a big part of this.
Well, these lists of what is pointless began in the United States, and they're used in several countries because this issue of over-medicalisation is a global one with modern medicine. So its aim wasn't to tackle the NHS's money problems, but of course a handy side effect of doing less is that it costs less. But really, this initiative is all about having a single website where doctors can go when they're having these conversations in the consulting room and go, look, here is the proof that actually, in this case, doing nothing is the best medicine.
All right, Cathy, thanks very much indeed. Still to come on the programme. How heading a football can affect someone's brain and memory. And the little girl removed from the womb for a life-saving operation before being put back in to then be born. It's an incredible story. You can find out more about it after this break. Welcome back. You're watching 5 News. Footballers who head the ball could be damaging their brains. A new study has found significant changes in brain function for 24 hours after players headed the ball during training. It follows campaigners calling for more research into the subject, as Simon Viger explains.
Good ground here. It's a terrific cross for Ibrahimovic to attack.
From the weekend's big match in the Premier League to the local Park League, you are taught to use your head. But nagging doubts are turning to real concern following a new study from the University of Stirling. It showed headers caused an instant change to brain function. After just one session, the changes were temporary. But what about a lifetime? In 2002, an inquest ruled that West Bromwich Albion legend Jeff Astle was killed by degenerative brain disease caused by heading heavy, old-school footballs.
It really is unforgivable for footballing authorities to ignore the fact that, you know, my dad had died and the reasons why he died because of fear of what it might be doing to the game.
As far as you're concerned, this is a ticking time bomb, and
Absolutely.
They're ignoring it.
Absolutely. I have no doubt about that whatsoever.
Footballs aren't so heavy now, but that appears to be irrelevant after the results from the new memory tests.
It is certainly sufficient evidence to say we need to be taking this issue seriously, we need to be investing in studies, and we need to understand the issue to a much greater extent than we do.
It may seem over the top, but in the United States, under-10s are banned from heading. Here, the Jeff Astle Foundation wants much more research and much more support for retired footballers.
I have this huge weight on my shoulder now because there's so many people depending on us, you know, and I won't give in for Dad, and I won't give in for them, you know, I won't, because I know exactly, you know, what they're going through. We've done that. I've got the T-shirt. I've seen what happened to my dad, and it's just brutal. It's devastating. So we do it for them. We do it for them.
Footballers would never put themselves in the same bracket as boxers or rugby players, but the beautiful game is now having to face some ugly truths. Simon Viger, 5 News.
The former Eggheads star CJ Demouy will not be extradited to the Netherlands over an alleged killing. The former quiz show panellist is accused over an incident that happened in Amsterdam back in 1988. The 46-year-old's manager says CJ will continue to cooperate with the Dutch authorities. A man has been jailed for 34 years for murdering a book dealer after going to steal a first edition copy of The Wind in the Willows. Michael Danaher murdered historian Adrian Greenwood in April after going to his house to take the 108-year-old copy of the classic novel. A Christian baker is found to have breached equality laws by refusing to make a pro-gay marriage cake have lost their appeal. Judges in Belfast upheld the original ruling that Asher's Bakery discriminated against a gay activist by refusing to make a cake with the slogan, "Support gay marriage."
I'm relieved, but also very grateful to the Court of Appeal for the judgment.
It clarifies the law, and it means that anyone, whether you're straight, gay, lesbian, bisexual, can walk in to receive a service without asking yourself the question, I wonder, do the views that I hold, religious, political views, or does my sexual orientation somehow conflict with those of the people that run this organisation or the service provision?
Justin Bieber stormed off stage in Manchester last night because his fans were making too much noise.
My point of the no screaming thing is so that when I'm looking at you in the eyes, you can actually know that we're having a moment and having a connection, right? So it's not me.
As you may have realised there, the Canadian pop star pleaded with the audience to stop screaming between songs, but when they failed to listen to him, he dropped his microphone and he walked off stage. He later came back on to continue the show. No doubt to a few more screams. Now, the first time a baby enters the world is a very special moment, of course, but one little girl in America has been born twice, making her safe arrival even more precious. Linley Bomer was taken out of the womb for a life-saving operation before she was placed back inside her mother. Several weeks later, she was born safe and healthy. It's amazing. Minnie Stevenson has the story.
Little Linley has not one, but 2 birthdays. While Margaret Bomer's baby might have been born in June, she made a brief appearance into the world much earlier than that. During a routine ultrasound, doctors discovered a tumour on the unborn baby, and operating was the only way of saving her.
We knew that if we didn't choose the option of emergency surgery that night, that within a day or so she would pass.
At 16 weeks, doctors told Linley's parents she had a rare tumour growing on her spine. By 23 weeks, her heart began to fail, so surgeons had to operate, removing her from the womb for 20 minutes. After the operation, doctors then returned the baby to continue growing inside her mum, and she was born again at 36 weeks.
It was her second birth, basically. It was a relief to finally see her and to see that she had made it through. After the open fetal surgery, her heart had time to heal while I was still pregnant with her. So she has no heart issues now and is doing amazing.
Her condition is almost always possible to treat on a newborn, but when it's detected before birth, survival is rare. But Linley went on to have a healthy delivery into the world over 12 weeks later. Doctors have called the risky operation a miracle, to be born not once, but twice. This baby girl now has a life of double birthdays ahead of her. Minnie Stevenson, 5 News.
Yeah, good point. 2 birthdays, double the birthday presents from now on. That's all for the time being. I'll be back, though, in an hour for 5 News Tonight. We'll have much more on our top story, the clearance of the jungle migrant camp in Calais. We've been hearing that thousands have been queuing up today to get moved to other places in France. But is that going to solve the problem of mass migration that's being faced all over Europe as refugees continue to flee war-torn countries? We're also going to be talking about battles between parents and local authorities over the gender identity of children. One Christian charity says it's dealing with a number of cases where kids want to transition from being a girl to a boy, or vice versa, of course. and they're being supported by their local authority against the wishes of their parents. I'll be speaking to one family whose child has transitioned from a girl to a boy with the support of their parents. And if you have any views on those stories or other ones that are coming up at 6:30, do feel free to get in touch via our Facebook page. Just search there for Channel 5 News. But that's just about it for now. Sean Welby is here with the weather next. I'll be back, of course, with 5 News tonight at 6:30. For now, many thanks indeed for your company. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.